Hey, so my name is Eric Hammer, and I am going to be your host for this class. This class is going to be a two-part class talking about sales techniques. And by way of introduction, for those who don't know who I am, on YouTube I go by the moniker The Man in the Hat. That's because I wear a fedora pretty much everywhere I go, and I am one of the few people who can pull one successfully. And before I got into affiliate marketing, I worked for about 4 years in sales, and I was the number one salesman in my office. I worked in phone sales, in moving services, and I actually set records in my office as a salesman. So we're going to be talking about two different things. This course is going to be broken into two different sections. The first section is going to be on neuro-linguistic programming, and the second section is going to be all about pattern interrupts. So without any further introduction, let's go ahead and get started on talking about neuro-linguistic programming. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about today is neuro-linguistic programming. Now, it's going to sound a little bit creepy at first, but bear with me, it's really not what it sounds like. The concept behind neuro-linguistic programming, there's a lot of psychology that goes into it. The concept is basically kind of to program somebody's mind to believe that what you're trying to sell them is what they actually want. Now, I know this sounds creepy. It sounds like something out of a cult, and depending on how you do it, it can actually be creepy and sound like something out of a cult. But it's really not that creepy. It's not weird, and it's really a matter of just the kind of attitude that you have. But I am going to go over the specific details of what's involved in this. And I'll explain why it's not really creepy. I first heard the term about 3 years after I started working in sales, and I was actually the number one salesman in my office. I had been working for many, many years as a salesman, and I was able to just build rapport with people and instantly make sales. And I was actually breaking records in my office for the number of sales that I made. And somebody told me, "Oh, you have that neuro-linguistic programming thing." And I was like, "I have the what down?" And he told me about it, and I looked it up, and it turned out there are some people who just naturally are good at this. And I think it's basically what it really boils down to is, do you genuinely want to help the person that you're working with? If you genuinely want to help the person you're working with, you really don't need me to teach you about neurolinguistic programming. If you're trying to play a trick on them, I can teach it to you, but honestly, it's not really going to help you that much because people can see through that people are not being genuine. The reason that people can see through when you're not being genuine is because they can look at your eyes, even if you are able to smile all the time and sound really happy and excited. Oh my God, I'm so happy and excited. The truth of the matter is that your eyes kind of betray you. Even if you're able to fake a smile and to fake interest, your eyes will betray you. And the tone of your voice, there's a little bit of a subtle difference in the tone of your voice. If you're not genuine about wanting to help somebody, people can tell. That said, there are 5 basic steps involved in neuro-linguistic programming, which I'm going to go over right now. So number 1 is to find rapport. Basically, find something in common with a person, something you can chit-chat about, something you can make small talk about, because people don't want to just talk to a stranger. They want to talk to somebody that they actually like. And if you find something that you can have in common with them, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter, you're going to plant a seed of, oh, I like this person. This is somebody I can spend time with. This is somebody I could enjoy being with, just shooting the breeze, having a beer with. And once you plant that seed, you're much more likely to be able to make a sale because you found rapport with a person. And so that's the first thing I do when I meet with somebody for sales purposes. I try to find rapport with them. So, for example, I used to work in moving services, as I mentioned in the introduction to this course. And basically what I would do is the first thing I would do is I would say to them, so where are you moving to? What's there? Why are you moving? And I would tell them, are you excited? I was asked, are you excited about it? Things like that. The usual things that you might ask about. And I would mention, actually, you know what? I personally hate moving. I've actually moved 18 times. And I've had everything from good experiences to miserable experiences. And that instantly puts people at ease, like, oh, I know, this person understands me. He understands that I have this tension about moving. And that's really what you want to do, is build rapport. Find some way that they can feel like, oh, this person can understand me. This is a person I can feel comfortable with. The second thing you want to do is understand where the person is in the decision tree. Okay, because for two reasons. Number one, you don't want to waste your time with what's called a gatekeeper, like a secretary or an underling, somebody who doesn't have the power to make decisions. There's no point in trying to sell the secretary or the underling on what you want to sell. Your goal is to get to the main person. And so the underling, the purpose of the only thing you want to do with the underling is to work with them to get to the person who actually makes a decision. That said, the person who makes the decision, you have to kind of treat them with a certain amount of respect because they feel like they deserve it. Because I've built myself up, I've built myself in the company, I am the vice president of purchasing, I am whatever it is. They feel like they deserve respect, and so you need to give it to them. I used to work in fundraising as well. I've done a lot of different jobs in my life. And when I worked in fundraising, the best advice I ever heard in fundraising was that if you run a fundraising event, a gala, it's not about the money, it's not about the food, it's all about prestige. That basically the people who are coming there, they want to feel important. You make them feel important, they're going to give you a ton of money. And it's the same kind of thing with sales. If you make the person that you are talking to feel like they're important because they're at the top of the world, they are the person who makes these decisions, I have the power, you make them feel important, this is going to impact greatly on your ability to make a sale because they're going to feel like, oh, I'm good, I'm great, I'm the best. And you're building up their ego. And I know that sounds kind of phony, and you have to do it in such a way that doesn't sound phony. Like, yes, I genuinely respect you. I see you've built a business that's a 6-figure business. Wow, that's really cool. That's really impressive. I'm very, very impressed. I would like to do this. I would like to know more about what you do. Okay, you have to be genuine about it, but you also do have to give them that respect that they feel like they deserve. Okay, now number 3 is understanding their pain points. So by pain point, basically, what do I mean? Sales is not really about, I have this, I want to sell it to you. That's not what it's about. Okay, if you think that way, then you're simply wrong. Anybody who's ever seen the famous movie The Wolf of Wall Street with Jordan Belfort, I've actually learned from Jordan myself, and this is something super important. There's the famous scene in the film where he's talking to his friends and he says, "Sell me this pen." And so his friend says, "Hey, could you write down your name?" And Jordan says, "I don't have a pen," or Christian's, whatever his name is. I forget what the actor is. But anyway, he says, "I don't have a pen." And he says, "Exactly, supply and demand." At the end of the film, you see Jordan, after he's already served his time in prison, walking around to a bunch of sales professionals saying, "Sell me this pen." One says, "Oh, it's a very nice pen. Oh, it's a very professional pen." And he keeps shaking his head, "No, no, 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 no." Now, the truth of the matter is that neither of those is the correct approach to sell me this pen. Okay, sell me this pen, the correct approach is to find out what their pain point is. And so you might say, how long you've been in the market for a pen? What do you usually do with a pen? Why would you use a pen? Things like that. You're trying to find out what it is they actually want to accomplish. And that's what's called a pain point. A pain point is basically saying, this person wants to do something with this stuff. So for example, when I worked in moving again, their pain point is, I gotta get my stuff from New York to Chicago. I don't want it to get broken. I don't want to spend a lot of money. That's their pain point. My pain point is, I'm living in New York right now. I've got a job in Chicago. How do I get my crap to Chicago? That's their pain point. And so you have to understand what their pain point is. And sometimes that means asking some leading questions. Again, how long have you been in the market for a pen? What do you usually do with a pen? Why are you looking for a brand new pen? Things like that. I know that sounds silly when you're talking about selling me this pen, but that's really what it's all about, is asking some leading questions to find out what it is their pain point. What exactly are they trying to accomplish? What is it that they want to do? Now, number 4, should sound obvious, but it's not. How can I help you with your pain point? Okay, so again, taking the example of moving. So I have my customer, John Doe, wants to move their stuff from New York to Chicago. Okay, how can I help them with their pain point of having to move? Now, I could just say, well, I can bring you a truck and we'll pick up your stuff and drop it off in Chicago. I could say that, but that's not really answering their pain point. Their pain point is not just, I gotta get my stuff from New York to Chicago. Their pain point is also, I have to spend the least amount of money. I have to make sure my stuff gets there in one piece. I have to make sure that the moving men are going to get there in a reasonable amount of time. And so all these different things have to go into figuring out how you can help with their pain point. And the same kind of thing happens with any kind of sales. When you're trying to figure out sales, you got to figure out how you're going to help them with all the details of their pain point. Their pain point isn't just, I need a pen, here's a pen. Their pain point is, I need a pen that can write upside down. Their pain point is, I need a pen that will look prestigious. Their pain point is, I need a pen that I would use in order to sign contracts. The pain point is, I need a pen that's going to make me look like a big boss. So you have to get to the details of what you can do to help their pain point. And when you do that, that is going to actually make the sale for you. And finally, very important, you have to realize that, especially if you're in a specialized industry like moving, when I worked in moving, the average person does not know what the terms are in the moving industry. Okay, so for example, there's terms like binding and non-binding. There's terms like bonded and insured. There's full pack, partial pack, self pack, customer pack, carrier pack. All these different things are terms that they don't know. And if you confuse them with all these terms, if you make them feel uncomfortable, they're going to go elsewhere. They're not going to want to know about you. What? Pack, self-pack? I don't know. I just want to get my stuff from Chicago. What do I know? And so you have to be able to explain, you have to understand your own product well enough to be able to answer things and explain it in a language that they're going to understand. So, for example, a lot of people would be concerned. They would say to me, Eric, how do I know that you guys are actually licensed? So I would say, well, I'll tell you what. Here's the website for the United States Department of Transportation. Here is our page on the website. You can look us up. You can see that we are licensed. And I would explain to them that there are two kinds of moving companies. There are carriers and there are brokers. And I would ask, do you know what a carrier or broker is? I don't know. What's a carrier or a broker? I'll explain. A carrier actually owns trucks. When I actually look out my window, I actually see moving trucks. Okay, I actually know that my company owns actual trucks. A broker, by comparison, doesn't own a single truck. A broker is basically the proverbial boiler room. Basically, it's just a sales office, and what they do is they will sell you the service, and then later on they're going to go and say, okay, who can we sell this to? Who can do this for the cheapest price so that we can pocket the difference? And that's basically all they're going to do. They're going to go ahead and say, okay, what's the cheapest, crappiest mover I can find that could do this for the cheapest price possible, so I can pocket the maximum amount of money. And so I would explain these terminologies to them, and that's what you have to be able to do with your business. You have to be able to explain terminology in a way that the average person can understand, because you may understand it because you are in the business, but they don't understand it. And so in order to make sure that they understand it as well as you understand it, you need to be able to actually give them the terminology in plain, simple language that everybody can understand. Now, all this ties into the concept of neurolinguistic programming. The concept is basically to be able to build a rapport, to make them feel like they can trust you. If your customer feels like they can trust you, then you've got the sale. Even if somebody else is cheaper, if they feel you are you're the man, you're the woman, you're the one they can trust, then you've got the sale. And the reason that you've got the sale is because people never buy from a company. They buy from people. People buy from people. And so if you can understand that, if you can understand that it doesn't matter if my company only has 5 employees and somebody else's company has 500 employees. Okay? If you make a rapport, if you make them feel like you understand them, you are their friend, you know what they need, and you can genuinely build a relationship, and that's going to get you the sale. That's what neurolinguistic programming is really all about. It's really about building a relationship with somebody, making them feel like, wow, this is a person who gets me. This person I can understand. This person I can trust. That's really all that you need to know about neurolinguistic programming. I know it sounds like something cultish and weird and complicated. It's not. It's actually a very, very simple, basic concept they can use in order to create a rapport with a customer. And it's really about, it's based on human psychology, but really all it is genuinely want to be helpful. If I was going to sum up the concept, it would basically be those words. Genuinely want to be helpful. If you can do that, you've got neurolinguistic programming down flat. No, this isn't a video about Christmas. I'm sorry if that's what you were thinking it is, but there is a reason why I started with Santa. Let's fix that over there. Why did I start with Santa? Let me ask you a question. When you're watching a video about sales techniques, do you expect to see a video of Santa with jingle bells playing in the background? Doesn't make any sense, right? What's the point of that? Okay, so the point is very simple. You've been sitting here watching this video. You already saw the first part on neurolinguistic programming. Now you saw this. Now you're seeing the second part, and by this time you're probably kind of fading out and not thinking about it. And suddenly you see something unexpected. Santa. What's it? What? Why is that here? When you see that, it interrupts your pattern of thought. It makes you say, oh, wait, there's something to pay attention to. My mind can stop drifting because there's something new to pay attention to. And that's really what pattern interrupts are all about. The best way I can explain pattern interrupts is like this. If you drive to work every day, and at least in the United States, most people do drive to work every day. So you're driving to work and you're fiddling with the radio, maybe, or listening to Sirius XM or whatever it is that you like to listen to, or a podcast, whatever. You probably pretty much drive on autopilot. I know when I drive, I pretty much drive on autopilot. I can go from point A to point B without really thinking about it. I don't have to really look at it. My muscle memory takes over, and I'm automatically just driving along, minding my own business. And suddenly, I go down the street, and some kid on a bike or a skateboard jumps out in front of my car. I slam on the brakes, and my heart is pounding about 1 million miles a minute, and I'm looking, oh my God, thank God, I didn't hit the kid. That's a pattern interrupt. Basically, what it means is that when you are looking at something, when you're doing something, you kind of like start to do things on autopilot. You don't really think about things. Instead, you basically just work on autopilot. But when something happens that you aren't expecting, like Santa showing up inside of a video about sales techniques, then suddenly your pattern is interrupted. You're like, oh, okay, I gotta take a step back. And you're gonna pay attention now. And that's really what pattern interrupt is. So I'm not gonna go over every single thing there is to know about pattern interrupts in this course, but I wanna go over a few examples of good pattern interrupts. So obviously, well, the one you saw was one example. Another good example. Let's type these out as we go along. So and I deliberately didn't want to do that because I wanted to get your attention. So another good example is unexpected title. Right. So an unexpected title. So in a sales video, you might expect the title to be sales techniques, and or actually, let me give you a better example. There was a famous book that came out, must be in the 60s or 70s, called Steal This Book. Steal This Book, that's a weird title, right? And basically it was all about having to be an anarchist or something like that. I forget exactly what it was about, but the concept was brilliant for the title, Steal This Book. It's like, what? Steal this book? Why would I want to steal the book? Don't you want me to buy it? And so the concept was really, really powerful. That it kind of like, it interrupts your pattern. You don't expect to see that. And so a good unexpected title is a very good way of interrupting people's patterns. All right. Another thing that you can do in order to really interrupt people's patterns is throw in something random. Right? So it could obviously be Santa with a sleigh. What I like to do when I'm doing a video, and this is one of the reasons I do this, and people who know my videos know that I do this all the time, I will go ahead and pick a random clip from some movie. So for example, when I do my videos all about entrepreneurship, I will fade into a short clip from 30 Rock where I have Liz Lemon from 30 Rock saying he's an entrepreneur, he's very successful. And then as a joke, I actually go and converse with her and say, Liz Lemon, thank you so much, you're so sweet, you're such a sweetheart. So why do I do that? Well, besides the fact that it's funny, it's also a parent interrupt. It gets people to say, wait a second, what? How did 30 Rock get into this? And so it interrupts things, and throwing something random is a really powerful method for getting people to stop what they're doing and say, oh, wait, what's going on? Okay. Number 3, and I'm going to do about 5 of these, I think. Okay, so number 3 is going to be reverse psychology. I'm sure you've heard this term before. So a good example of a reverse psychology pattern interrupt. When I was trying to grow my YouTube channel, one of the things that somebody suggested to do was to create a subscriber link and then put in my description, don't click this link. Why? Because when we're told not to do something, we want to do it. Okay, that's really what it's all about. It's a reverse psychology, and that's really a pattern interrupt. Because if you see people saying please subscribe, well, okay, it's like, yeah, of course people are just going to subscribe. But if you see people say don't click this link, it's like, what? Why not? Why shouldn't I click this thing? It suddenly gets you excited, gets you nervous, gets you thinking. And so because of that, you're actually able to have your pattern interrupted, and you're actually going to go and say, oh, I want to click this thing. I want to know what this is. Unexpected backgrounds. Okay, so this is something that I've seen a lot of marketers do. It's kind of like gotten overused, to be honest. It used to be really, really powerful. It's not as powerful today, especially in the internet marketing world. It might be more powerful in other things. So one of the things that people would do all the time was to have themselves speaking in front of a background with a beachfront scene of some kind. Now, why would they do that? Because you're looking at a business presentation and you're seeing the beachfront scene in the background. That interrupts your pattern. That makes you think of, oh yeah, that wonderful time that I had at that beach resort. And suddenly you're put into a different mood. It makes you feel like, oh wow, I really want to be this. I want to do this. That's really what I want, isn't it? Okay, and it puts you in a certain frame of mind. Okay, and then finally, the last thing is going to be something similar to this, but a little bit different. Okay, so there is a famous thing where somebody did an experiment where the guy's name was actually John Stossel. He did an experiment in New York City where he dressed up as a homeless person to see how much he would actually earn as a homeless person just panhandling on the street. And at first, he started with a poster that said, I'm homeless, I'm homeless vet, I can't work, blah, 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 whatever it is. And he checked how much money he would earn. I forget exactly the amount. But then he did something unexpected. He did what a few very smart homeless people have started to do. He sat down with a sign saying, "Why lie? I need a beer." Believe it or not, he actually got more money from that than he got from the standard sign. Why? Because people didn't expect that. Everybody if people see you sitting there with a sign saying "homeless and hungry," okay, yeah, it's terrible. It's a shame. It's so horrible to see that. But you kind of like grow blind to these things because everybody says they're homeless and hungry. So of course it's like, Okay, another homeless person. Okay, I feel bad. Maybe I'll give them a quarter. Okay, but then the guy has a sign that says that makes you stop and think like, huh, now that's cute. Why lie? I need a beer. Now some people are gonna take the more hard ground and say, why don't you go get a job? Other people can say, huh, the guy made me laugh, and they'll give him $1 instead of a quarter. And it's a reality that when you use an unexpected material inside of your marketing materials, something that people aren't expecting to see, you're actually going to make more money because you're interrupting the pattern. You're not giving them what they usually expect to see. You're giving them something that's different, something that's really exciting, that makes them say, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, I can go for that. Another good example, a friend of mine recently did a really funny video where he talked about that in order to really do marketing, you need a cult following. And he had this whole thing with him dressed himself like a cult leader and saying, you need a cult following. And it was really funny because it really gets in your head, and it's not what the usual thing you expect to see somebody like me just sitting here talking. It's something that's like makes it completely different, completely stand out, and it makes you remember them. And if you remember them, you're more likely to actually buy from them. So that's 5 different ways of doing pattern interrupts. There are a million things you can do. The concept is basically to try to make it so that people are going to be disrupted from their usual patterns. Another thing you do is just switch scenes. So that's why a lot of films will constantly switch scenes. They'll have like 2 seconds here, 3 seconds there. And the reason for that is because it interrupts the pattern. It tricks the mind into thinking something new is going on. I have to pay attention now. If somebody is just sitting there talking like me, you're probably falling asleep, and I apologize about that, but I'm not going to spend hours and hours and hours recording from different angles and different videos and stuff in order to make that happen. So I hope you can just pay attention and get some value out of this course, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you over on the internet.